Let's see if I can squeeze in 1 hour. All right, so somewhere in here. Request verification of a verified transactions request. And this is a request dot transaction request transaction. This is still doing the verify. So what does it mean to verify a transaction? Delivered ID, courier ID. I guess it means to check the database, maybe. There's orders in here. The more I think about this, the more this is probably fine. I think I'll leave this alone. I guess I was thinking for orders table, should the partition key be request ID? And then the row key would be what? Yeah, so it doesn't make, to me, I think this is fine because I don't know how to do it any other way. The thing is the transaction isn't the order. We're in the courier domain, so the transaction is well, what is a transaction? This delivered ID and courier ID. Why can't I just do this? Okay. There's a is completed flag. Maybe that should be changed to delivered ID. And if delivered ID is empty, then it hasn't been delivered. Maybe. I'm thinking that's probably a viable option to do. Because, I mean, it's completed. That gives me information, but delivered ID packs even more information without having to create a separate table. Mm. The other part is when a courier changes, don't I need to update the orders entry? Well, I'm updating the status here. I also have an event log that's recording all that stuff. So this really can be mutable. Or I cannot rely on this database at all and just rely on the event log. Oh shoot, look at this. Hey DZB. Do you think OS from this point going forward, language or more language-based platform? So let me answer your second to last question. I've been working on this courier payroll service for the past probably 4 or 5 days. And what that means is that a courier, where's our courier solution over here? What that means is a courier makes some deliveries. Each delivery they accrue a commission, right? And then eventually they want to cash out. And so I added 2 function types to my specification for courier compensation on collected deliveries, which will give them their balance that they can cash out on, and then the actual cash out request. So that's what I've been working on for the last several days, trying to squeeze out 2 to 3 hours a day to work on it. And I also have like this security aspect, which I don't know really anything about security, but I want to make sure I do my due diligence so that no one can just arbitrarily submit a cash out request and they just automatically have money placed on some debit card. Like, so I'm trying to perform due diligence and make sure that there's some validation where if they send out a cash out request, then that cash out request needs to consist of deliveries that haven't been cashed out on, and it needs to match the courier. And then with that debit card needs to be mapped to a courier in order for that money to go on that debit card. So that's what I've been working on today. And you say, do you think OS from this point go towards language agnostic or more language-based platforms? So I assume that OS is operating systems, and that's not a typo. So do I think operating systems from this point go towards language agnostic or more language-based platforms? If I read that right, operating systems, I don't think the only language they care about is assembler, right? Assembly language. They care about bits consisting of ones and zeros and hex, uh, 0 through 9, A through F, and I mean machine language. So I'm not sure if that was a typo that you had when you said OS, but yeah, I don't think an operating system uh, knows what C sharp is or Scala or Python, um, even JavaScript. They Those are the languages that, from my understanding, are commonly used to address uh, programmer challenges, such as like memory allocation, releasing memory, stuff like that. So yeah, I think operating systems have always been agnostic because you use a language, and yeah, some of these languages are dynamic or are statically typed, but ultimately they distill down into bytecode that the operating system executes. Within .NET, you have the just-in-time, uh, what do you call it? The Common Language Runtime, aka CLR, has a just-in-time. I don't know if you want to call it. I don't want to call it just-in-time compiler, uh, but it's just-in-time where it takes your intermediate language, aka Microsoft Intermediate Language, aka Missile, and it distills that down into bytecode for the Windows operating system to execute. So let me see, say no, like Android only expose space APIs to Java, or Android doesn't expose to Rust, or iOS doesn't provide API support to Python. Okay, so I think I have a better understanding of what you're saying. So, so maybe I was wrong a little bit. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still executing bytecode, right? But the vendors of these platforms, they still try to constrain you to write in a specific language, right? So, yeah, you're right. Your Android tries to constrain you to use a Java eco-friendly language, whether it's Kotlin or Java. iOS, Objective C, Swift. But remember, like for the mobile apps that I've been building, including for this passion project, I'm using Xamarin, and so Xamarin is .NET, whether you use C sharp or F sharp, and within that framework, it's going to, I'm not sure if transpile is the right term, but it's going to map it. How do I say this? It's going to take that missile or Microsoft Intermediate Language, and it's going to translate it to the bytecode that your iOS platform or your Android platform requires. So even if operating system from a vendor kind of requires a specific language. Hence, it doesn't really, right? It just requires, there's just a language by default that their documentation is written in, but you can always write it in a different language and then translate that to the bytecode using an interpreter. And I guess that's what I'm looking for is an interpreter, right? All languages get interpreted to whatever bytecode that your Android or your iOS is going to require. So moving forward, I would say that I don't really see a difference in things changing. .NET has a CLR, Common Language Runtime. Java has, I forgot what Java's runtime is called, but they both rely on interpreters, and that's been a decision made since like 1998, 1999. Well, .NET was, I think, 2000, right, with the CLR. I thought Java was maybe, when did Java come out? Maybe 96 or something. But they both rely on interpreters to talk to their operating system. So then you say, like Windows and Linux expose a common call stack for languages to access Windows API, but not any modern operating system. Yeah, so for Windows, I assume you're talking about like MS Corp or Microsoft Core Library, Core Lib. Microsoft Common Object Runtime Library. So you're referring to like something like this, where like there's a base, or there every programming language I would assume probably has a core library, and then there's additional libraries that kind of rely on that core library that just built on top of. The short answer is I don't know. But if you need, let me put it right here. If you need control, for example, Wi-Fi API, Xamarin also makes a native service in Java. Expose that to Xamarin app. It cannot natively access any APIs directly. I think this is true. Yep. So short answer is moving forward, I don't think the behavior of these platforms are going to change. In a way, why would they? Because that would mean that if you have, how would a platform be language agnostic? That means that the authors of that platform would have to write a mapper or expose a mapping for every single programming language. And that's probably, that takes time, right? That takes time to write, that takes time to qualify and promote, that takes time to maintain. So I don't think it's in anybody's, or at least the authors or vendors' interest, to build a platform that accepts or that is friendly to all programming languages. I think it's up to other businesses, entrepreneurs, etc., to write interpreters for that platform, given a language of choice. So Linux was doing it within a year. Linux was doing what specifically? And the short answer is, I don't think the common behavior is going to change. Where's my verification thing? Oh, my transaction thing. So we request a transaction periodically. Keep checking. How's everything going with you? Like, what are you working on as of late? And for my event log, do I have an event log in here? Yeah. So there should be a courier. I don't know if spec is really what I'm looking for. Yeah. Courier delivered. There's a couple things. There's courier transactions. Why do I have two? Event store, courier transactions. Why do I have two of these? Why don't I have this delivered right here, and then I think one is in a. I think I have courier transactions defined in a separate module because I'm probably recording two different or multiple event streams, and this is why I probably have it. Yeah, because I have the same thing over here. Okay, so where was I at? See if all this builds and see what happens if I remove this line. I remove this line. Does it still build? It says if the operating system doesn't support cross-origin native app, it will just die. I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not that experienced with operating in their ecosystems. You should not work on your app. Sorry for it. No, we're good. I'm just dude, it's like going on 6 a.m. It's not that serious for me. Like I'm more than happy to chop it up. I'm curious what you're up to. Do you have any passion projects that you're working on? What have you been up to? How do I do all this? Not really coded for the past 20 days. Oh wow. How is that possible? Are you not a programmer? Are you employed? Are you a manager or something? How does a programmer not program in 20 days unless they're not gainfully employed at the moment? So, writer's block, and I'm trying to work it out. I'm a professional programmer and I'm employed. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I'm getting a writer's block right now because I'm not quite sure how to approach querying a transaction. So here's the deal. You can let me know what you think. I rely on this event log because this is supposed to be the source of truth. I'm not sure if you're familiar with event sourcing, but this event log basically logs or records every historical event that has taken place for my system. So an order gets placed, it gets recorded in this event log. And this event log is like an immutable database. So you can only append events. You can't delete anything, etc. So an order gets placed, a courier accepts an order, a courier cancels an order, a courier arrives at the pickup location to pick up the order, a courier is en route to the customer location. All that stuff is historical. All that stuff gets recorded, right? So this, again, is like a source of truth. But I also created some other, like, so this is my stream, and that event log writes to the stream table right here. Okay. However, to support me quickly debugging and observing the state of my system, I created some other tables, and these are just UI tools for me, so I can quickly see visually what my data is, because it's either do this using a UI tool that already exists or build my own UI tool. And it's like I chose, well, I might as well just take Azure Storage Explorer, create a table so I can view what's going on in here. But then once I started creating these tables as a tool to visually observe what's been going on as I continue to build out the system, I started writing more code to rely on these tables that were meant only for me to observe data. And now I have a dependency on these tables. So I say all that because I'm not sure if, I know for a fact that I should rely on my event log, but now I'm getting stuck because it's very easy for me to just keep building on top of those tables that were meant to only be observation tools. So I know what I need to do. It's just I kind of got comfortable, and now I gotta do some rework to get off of those dependencies. Yeah, so I get writer's block. Yeah, I get writer's block. I've been struggling with this since probably my last session yesterday. I've been spinning my wheels trying to figure out what code is actually supposed to go in here. This request transaction, because transactions are kind of stored in this orders table. Like I can reference a transaction in here, but this wasn't really meant for production use. So with that said, and with you assisting me to think out loud, I should probably introduce a dependency within our courier payroll service on event log, in which I should be able to retrieve a transaction given a courier ID. Okay. Retrieve from event log. Okay. What am I getting? Okay. And so how would that work? Do I have any examples right now where I read from the event log? Let me see. Do I have an event log? Event store. I have an event store right here. It looks like I have something in here. Okay. So that doesn't read. What's this over here? Post. Yeah, so it seems like these two are the only two that actually do a read. And so I'm just going to take this whole block right here. And I'm going to, actually, I guess I'm going to have to take the whole block. I could take this right here, maybe. Paste it in here. This is courier ID. This would be, I probably would have to expose a transaction function in which we say courier ID equals, yeah, like that. Okay. And then I have this, this is get async. What does this mean? Oh, that's my HTTP. Okay. So apparently there's this, I gotta import a web gateway. Okay. So I don't, I need a dependency on web gateway. Oh, wow. Okay. Let's add a project for web gateway. And we'll just call it web gateway, right? So add new project, standard, web. Is it capital G? Web gateway. I don't call it anything else, right? Okay. Call this comment. And okay, hold on. I'm confused. How do you not write code for the past 20 days and you're a professional programmer and employed? That means that you still go to work. How are you not writing code? What are you doing? Are you managing others? Yeah, that's the part that I'm still confused on. Copy this whole thing, throw it in here. This is web support. I don't have to worry about that. Don't worry about that. Don't know why I would need that. Native message handler. All right, so let's edit this. We'll just take this whole item group right here, and we'll throw it in here. I'm so smart. Okay. Why do I need a global? Why do I need a global? Why do I need this right here? I shouldn't. Do I have a web gateway defined anywhere else? Foundation. No. I don't understand why I need a global HTTP client. Surely, hold up. Fine, I'll create a singleton here. That should be fine. Okay. Oh, so now we can add a dependency to our web gateway. Open web gateway. And event store endpoint. We need to expose, I guess. No, where is this at? Is that's in our DevOps stage? Where do I want to create a new folder called Foundation? Throw our web gateway in there. Okay. I could probably throw endpoints in here too, right? So create endpoints right here. And then I'll just do that. And it's just called web gateway, right? So we'll say namespace, web gateway, event store. That should be straight. Or you could say web gateway, web support, or that's right here. Web gateway support, and then event store. Okay, something like that. So then Okay. Now what? This JSON convert. Do that. We should get back a transaction. And remember, first let's do this transaction. Remember, this request transaction is looking for this transaction right here, transaction ID, delivered ID, amount float. Okay, so we do that. Return transaction. And I don't think delivered ID got used anywhere. Now what? The if expression needs to have type unit satisfy context type requirements. Request transaction returns a async result of a transaction. I don't understand what else it needs. Maybe the value is unused. Did I spell transaction wrong? Control Shift B. Something's not right. Async dot await task. There should be a let. Okay. That should be fine. There must be. Oh, this right here. That's why. Okay. So then, well, it looks like we don't need delivered ID. It looks like courier ID is useful. It looks like that's pretty much it. Okay. So we do the verification. handle requests. It looks like we could probably take this right here and say let transaction request equal that right there. That okay. Shift B. Okay. And then what are we doing? What's the name of this thing called verify? And so we say is okay equals the transaction is not paid. Okay. I think that's okay for right now. What I need to do in my event log is I need to implement this transaction function given the courier ID. But what does that even mean? It's going to that transaction function. It needs a courier ID and a delivered ID. So it's it is this delivered ID equal. And then we can say request dot delivered ID. And I'm not sure in HTTP how do you write multiple parameters? Isn't it like an ampersand? And then you could say delivered ID equal. And then you just do %s again. Say delivered ID, something like that. So you have transaction ID or transaction function, courier ID equals that. I thought this was $s. That I think that's how it goes, right? Let me see. URL multiple parameters. I thought it was using an ampersand. Yeah, it's ampersand. Okay. So now I'll check this in for right now. All right, so added added a client for function to be written. That. Okay. Okay. So then I'll just say to do implement that event store. Okay. And my delivery event log service, subscription, pickup, delivery, conversation, transactions. Add it right here. We'll say transaction function. And you really just need if we go back to our payroll service, you really just need a delivered ID, right? That's all you really need. You don't need a courier ID. Well, you probably do need it because you need to know which stream that you need to know which stream that delivery ID is going to be in which there's a courier stream, just like there's a request stream. All right. I think that's fine. We can decorate this. That's not what I was looking for. Try this one more time. We can decorate this. Transaction function. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. And apparently we have let me see, how do I define transaction again in my payroll? It's right here, transaction ID, delivered ID, amount. And that's something else. I still got to map a delivered ID to an order. See if our transaction is used already. There's a financial transaction ID I can find up here. Find financial transaction ID equals string. Just do that right there. And do I have the, I don't. This transaction function takes what? Where's my, looks like it just takes a, do I want to do it like this? We're not deserializing anything. It's in the URL. How did I do it with application status? Oh, okay. This is a good. So apparently, do something like this. And this would be a courier ID. This is a delivered ID. Is that how I wrote it? Okay. And then it looks like there's a query in here. Ports, event log, data gateway. That query Could that be used under reports? This is query transactions. Takes a token. We'll say query. Say this would be a request. Transaction. And it will take a courier ID, and a delivered ID. That's what we'll have for this right here. Yeah, we know that that's going to be a nope. That'll be fine. I don't know what all this other stuff is. Let's get rid of this. And we can say throw just throw an exception. To do. Okay. So like that. Still got to integrate. All right. So I hit my hour. I'm hopping off. See ya. Peace. I'll be back on probably in another hour or so.